Hello besties, welcome to Emma's Tales. Please subscribe and leave a like for us, it means the world to us. Also, share this video with your loved ones and turn on post notifications so you don't miss future videos from us. Thank you. As you do so, sit back and relax as we dive into the story. The air inside the church was heavy, too heavy to breathe easily. The scent of lilies pressed against my face like damp cloth, suffocating in its sweetness. I shifted on the wooden pew, staring at the coffin at the front of the aisle, and the truth still refused to land in my chest. My little sister, was supposed to be inside that box. The priest spoke in a soft, droning voice, but the words slid past me without meaning. A beloved daughter. A sister. Taken too soon. All I could hear was the silence between each phrase, the kind that eats at your bones. I clutched the folded program with both hands until the paper wrinkled, my fingers trembling. The photograph on the cover, her smiling in the sunshine, her hair wild in the wind, seemed cruel now, as if the picture itself mocked us with a version of her that had been stolen. I glanced sideways. My mother dabbed her eyes with a handkerchief, but her shoulders stayed oddly straight, her face almost composed. My father's jaw was clenched, a vein twitching near his temple as though he were forcing grief out for the crowd watching us. Something about their stillness felt staged, unnatural, though I quickly swallowed the thought. People grieve differently, I told myself. Still, unease crawled at the edges of my mind, sharp as splinters. The choir began a hymn, their voices echoing against the rafters. My throat ached, but no sound came. I pressed my palm against my chest, as if I could hold myself together. The music swelled, then softened, the final verse hanging in the air like smoke. And that was when it happened. My phone buzzed in my pocket. At first, I ignored it. Who would text me now? But it buzzed again, insistent, until my nerves frayed. I slid the phone out with trembling fingers, hiding it behind the program like a guilty secret. A message from a private number lit up the screen. I'm alive. Don't trust our parents. The world around me fell away. Don't forget to like and drop a comment. If this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button. I read it once, twice, a dozen times, my pulse pounding so hard I thought my ribs might crack. My stomach lurched as though the ground beneath the pew had dropped. Cold swept through my body in waves. My sister was dead. I had watched the paramedics. I had seen the death certificate. I was sitting at her funeral. But the words glared back at me in stark black letters. I'm alive. A hand brushed my arm. I jerked my head up. My cousin leaned close, whispering, "Are you okay?" I forced a nod, lips too dry to form sound. She gave me a worried look, but turned her attention forward again. I gripped the phone tighter, afraid someone else had seen. My parents were only a few feet away. I dared not meet their eyes. Was it a prank? Some twisted stranger preying on grief? My throat tightened. But then, how could anyone know to say don't trust our parents? That wasn't random. That was personal. That was a blade pressed into a wound. My fingers shook as I slipped the phone back into my pocket. My heart refused to calm, pounding harder with each second. I kept replaying the words in my mind until they echoed louder than the priest's final prayer. When the ceremony ended, the crowd rose. People murmured condolences, hugs pressed against me like weights, but I hardly heard them. My body went through the motions, accepting embraces, muttering thank you, while my mind spun in circles, dizzy and desperate. At the graveside, I stood frozen as the coffin was lowered. The rope creaked. Soil waited at the edge, piled dark and damp. A sudden urge to scream seized my chest, to stop them, to demand the box be opened. What if? No. I couldn't. Not here. My mother sniffled softly beside me, dabbing her eyes again. My father's hand rested stiffly on her back. For a fleeting moment, I saw it again. The composure, the practiced sorrow. Their expressions carried something that didn't sit right. It wasn't absence of grief, exactly. It was performance. I shivered despite the heat pressing down from the sun. People began to scatter, walking back toward the cars. I lingered, staring at the rectangle of earth waiting to swallow her. My cousin tugged my sleeve gently. Come on. They'll want us at the reception. Don't forget to like and drop a comment. If this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button. I nodded, but my legs felt heavy as stone. I forced myself to move, clutching my phone like a lifeline. Every step was unsteady, as though I were walking across glass. At the reception hall, laughter broke out in uneasy bursts, people trying to soften the edge of the day with food and small talk. I couldn't eat. My plate sat untouched as I sat in a corner, staring at my phone screen, refreshing it again and again, waiting for another message. Nothing. When my parents approached, I felt my whole body stiffen. My father's eyes bore into me, sharp and searching. You should try to eat something, he said in a low voice. I'm not hungry, I murmured. My mother's hand brushed my shoulder, cold and fleeting. You need your strength. I nodded mechanically, forcing a sip of water, but my thoughts screamed louder than my voice could. Don't trust our parents. I wanted to ask them outright, to demand answers, but the words stuck in my throat. How could I accuse them, at her funeral, without proof, without sense? What if I was wrong? What if it was all some cruel trick? Yet the unease spread deeper, carving a hollow in my chest. Every glance from them, every word, felt heavier now, weighed down by suspicion. Their sorrow no longer seemed unconvincing, it seemed dangerous. When we finally returned home, I shut myself in my room. The house was silent, save for the creak of floorboards as relatives prepared to leave. I sat on my bed in the dark, staring at the phone on my desk. The message was still there, unshakable, impossible. I picked it up again, rereading it until my eyes burned. My hand hovered over the reply box. Should I answer? If I did, and it was her, if it really was her, what then? But fear rooted me. What if my parents saw? What if replying put her in danger, or me? The phone slipped from my fingers and landed softly on the blanket. My chest rose and fell in jagged waves. My sister was either buried in the ground, or she was out there, alive and hiding. And my parents who had raised us, who had taught us right and wrong, suddenly stood on the other side of the line, blurred and menacing. I buried my face in my hands, torn in half. Do I keep silent, preserve the fragile illusion of family, or do I follow the shadow of the truth into whatever darkness waits? The question lodged in my chest like a thorn. Don't forget to like and drop a comment. If this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button. I knew only one thing for certain. My life would not return to what it was before that message. Whatever the truth was, it had already begun to rewrite everything. I barely slept that night. Every time my eyes closed, the words lit up in the dark like a neon sign. I'm alive. Don't trust our parents. My chest rose and fell in shallow bursts, sweat dampening the pillow, the silence of the house pressing in around me. I waited for another message, something to explain the first, but my phone stayed dark. By morning, the ache in my body was heavy, as though grief and fear had fused into a single, unrelenting weight. The house was full of quiet footsteps and murmured voices, relatives packing, guests leaving. I moved through them like a shadow, nodding when spoken to, but my mind kept replaying the night she died. They said it had been sudden. Collapsed in her room, no warning, no chance for anyone to help. I remember my mother's voice on the phone, flat and urgent. Don't come yet. We'll handle it. By the time I arrived, everything was already decided. The paramedics had come and gone. The doctor had signed off. No one let me see her. I'd ask questions, but my father's glare cut me down. Don't ask too many questions. It won't help. At the time, I swallowed it. Shock numbed me, made me obedient. But now, the gaps gaped wide. How could she have been declared dead so quickly? Why had they kept me away from her? The story folded in on itself the more I touched it, crumbling at the edges. I tried to focus on something concrete. The message. I opened my laptop and searched for ways to trace a private number. Every article I found told me the same thing. It wasn't simple. Some numbers could be masked through apps or encrypted systems. I tried a reverse lookup, but it returned nothing. The number wasn't listed anywhere. It was like a ghost had sent it. Frustrated, I sat back, running my hands through my hair. The thought hit me hard. If she had really sent it, she had planned this. She hadn't just stumbled into being alive. She'd prepared. That meant there had to be traces, something left behind. My eyes shifted toward the hallway, toward her room. My parents had kept it locked since the day she died. They said it was too painful, that no one should disturb her things until they were ready. I had accepted that until now. Now all I could think was what they might be hiding in there. That evening, when the house had quieted and my parents retreated to their room, I stood in front of her door. The lock glinted in the dim hallway light. My hand trembled as I tried the knob, uselessly. I knew where my father kept the spare keys. The drawer in his study desk. Don't forget to like and drop a comment. If this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button. I crept down the stairs, every step an echo in my chest. The study door groaned slightly as I pushed it open. The drawer stuck for a moment before sliding out, the keys clinking softly as I fished them free. My heart hammered as I returned upstairs, slipping one key after another into the lock until I heard the soft click. Her room smelled faintly of dust and perfume, frozen in time. Clothes were folded neatly on the chair, a half-burned candle on the desk. But there was something unnatural about the order. Too neat. As if someone had already combed through everything and put it back. I began to search. I pulled open drawers, flipped through books, checked under the mattress. At first, nothing. Just the expected. Clothes, notebooks, pens. I was beginning to doubt myself when I noticed the corner of the closet. A loose floorboard. I knelt, prying it up with my nails until it gave way. Beneath, a small metal box sat hidden in the hollow. My breath caught as I lifted it out, fingers trembling. The lid creaked open to reveal a stack of papers, folded receipts, and a slim black notebook. I flipped through the receipts first. Cash withdrawals, hotel bookings, train tickets. Dates close to the time she supposedly died.
My throat went dry.
She had been moving around, traveling, days before. Why hadn't she told me? The notebook was filled with cramped handwriting, pages of half-finished sentences, and sketches of names, phone numbers, maps. Some words were underlined, circled with frantic strokes. Watching, control, secret, danger. I turned another page and found something stranger. Encrypted lines of symbols, repeating patterns like a code. My stomach clenched. She had been hiding something serious, something she didn't want anyone else to read. I snapped the book shut, my pulse wild. The weight of the discovery pressed down hard. Proof she had been planning something. Maybe even her own disappearance. Proof my parents had locked this room for a reason. A floorboard creaked behind me. I froze, heart slamming against my ribs. Slowly I turned. The hallway was dark, empty, but I knew better than to believe I was safe. I shoved the box back under the floorboard, replaced everything as quickly as I could, and slipped out, locking the door behind me. The keys rattled faintly in my sweaty palm as I returned them to the study drawer, my movements clumsy with panic. Don't forget to like and drop a comment. If this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button. In my room, I collapsed onto the bed, clutching the notebook I had taken with me. I hadn't dared leave it there. The leather cover pressed against my chest, the only proof I wasn't imagining all of this. I thought about my parents just a few doors down, sleeping or pretending to. Their whispers at the funeral, their cold composure, the locked room. The messages warning carved deeper into me. Don't trust our parents. I opened the notebook again under the lamplight, staring at the encrypted page. The symbols blurred, but I forced myself to focus, tracing them with my finger, willing them to make sense. Whatever she was trying to say, she had wanted someone to find it. I whispered into the empty room, my voice breaking. What were you hiding, sis? The silence offered no answer, only the echo of my own fear. By the time dawn crept through the curtains, my decision had hardened. I could no longer cling to doubt, to the fragile hope this was a prank or coincidence. Too much didn't add up. The message, the receipts, the notebook, the way my parents looked at me as though measuring every move. I had no idea what I was stepping into, but I knew this. I couldn't turn back. I couldn't pretend anymore. I pressed the notebook flat on my lap, staring at the words she had left behind. I would find the truth, whatever it cost. I took the notebook with me when I left the house, tucked inside my jacket like a heartbeat. Morning traffic sighed along the curb, the sky a flat, unhelpful gray. I hadn't told anyone where I was going. If my parents asked later, I'd say I needed air. The lie felt small compared to everything else. I started with Mara, my sister's closest friend. She worked the morning shift at a cafe 2 neighborhoods away, the kind of place that wrote poems on chalkboards and sprinkled cinnamon like confetti. She saw me before I reached the counter, and her mouth fell open. She ran around to hug me, arms tight, the smell of espresso clinging to her clothes. "I'm so sorry," she whispered into my shoulder. "I keep thinking I'm going to see her walk in." I swallowed the stab in my throat. "Can we talk?" "Not here." She nodded, handed off her apron, and led me to the alley behind the shop. Trash bins. A sliver of distant traffic. The quiet was strange after the steam and clatter inside. "I need to ask you something," I said. "And I need you to trust me." Her lips tightened. "Okay. Don't forget to like and drop a comment. If this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button." Before everything. Did she say anything unusual? Anything at all? Mara looked away. "Your parents told me not to upset you." My pulse jumped. "They told you that?" She nodded, chewing her lip. "At the reception. Your dad said we should let you grieve in peace." "What did she tell you, Mara?" She hesitated so long I thought she might lie or walk away. Then she took a breath and met my eyes. She said she felt watched. By who, I wanted to ask, but the words stuck, thick and dry. "She started canceling plans at the last minute," Mara said. "Said she couldn't talk on the phone for long. She'd text me from different numbers sometimes." I joked that she'd joined a spy club. She didn't laugh. "Different numbers?" "Always private or weirdly formatted," she said. "She told me if anything happened to her, I should delete our messages." "Did you?" Her eyes shone. "She asked me to." I leaned back against the brick wall. It felt cold through my jacket. Did she ever say what she was scared of? Mara shook her head. Just that someone was making her do things she didn't want to, and that she had to find a way out. A freighted silence stretched between us. "Out of what?" "I don't know," she said. She said she'd explain when it was safe. Then I didn't hear from her for 2 days, and the next thing I heard was, she broke off, pressing her hand to her mouth. I took out the notebook, careful to shield it from the wind. I flipped to a page with a name scrawled 3 times and circled, Helix. Don't forget to like and drop a comment. If this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button. Does that mean anything to you? Mara stared at it, brow furrowed. No, she reached for the notebook. I pulled it slightly away, reflexively protective. Sorry, she murmured. It's fine. I slid the book back into my jacket. If you think of anything, anyone she mentioned, call me. Please. She nodded, eyes pinched with worry. Are you okay? She asked. No, I will be. I left with my heart thudding and walked without direction until the street names changed. I called 3 more people, her coworker Liam, her former roommate Tash, and a graphic designer she freelanced with named Kumar. Each conversation widened the outline of a shape I couldn't yet name. She had pulled back from them all, turned cautious, avoided in-person meetups. She'd once told Tash she'd started keeping 2 phones. Liam said she'd asked him how to wipe a laptop completely. Kumar said a client had paid her in cash, and she'd seemed relieved, almost giddy. At noon, my phone rang from a number without digits, just a blank label. I hesitated, then answered. Stop looking. The voice was low, distorted, neither male nor female. Grief makes people gullible. Who is this? Let it go. The line crackled, then clicked dead. I stood on the sidewalk, the noise of the city crowding my ears. Cars hissed past. A siren cut the air. I called the number back. It returned a tone and a message. Invalid. I ducked into a shared workspace 2 blocks over and paid for a day pass. The room smelled like coffee and ambition. I opened my laptop and tried again to trace the private number that had texted me at the funeral. Nothing. I tried different search terms, then searched for Helix. It returned 1,000 possibilities: tech startups, wellness clinics, a logistics company, a gym. I added our city's name to narrow it. The list shrank to a refrigerated storage company on the industrial edge of town and a boutique marketing agency with a sleek website and no staff photos. I typed my sister's name into social platforms just to see. Her accounts were there, the public ones at least, but something was wrong. Recent posts were gone. The gaps were neat, like pulled threads. A week here, 2 weeks there. When I checked the cached versions through a third-party tool, the missing posts appeared and then blinked away again. Someone had been cleaning up. Don't forget to like and drop a comment. If this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button. I called Tash back. Do you still have that old hard drive you two used to share movies on?
Yeah. Why?
Can I borrow it? She hesitated. Your parents told me. I know what they told you. Please. An hour later, I was in her apartment, a walk-up that smelled like basil and lemon cleaner. The drive was scratched and dented, a sticker of a cartoon frog peeling at the edges. I plugged it into my laptop at her kitchen table and scrolled. I wasn't sure what I expected. What I found made my scalp prickle, a folder named Notes, buried inside a directory of old tax PDFs. Inside, dozens of text files. Some ordinary, some lines of dense, repeating symbols that matched the cipher in the notebook. What is it? Tash asked, perched on the counter. I'm not sure yet. I copied everything to my laptop, then to a cloud drive, hands moving fast. I couldn't risk losing it. If anyone asks, say you gave me old photos. Her face stiffened. Who would ask? Just in case, I said, and left before my fear could spill into words. On the street, the sensation slid over me like a shadow. I was being watched. I told myself it was paranoia, a leftover from the call, but when I reached the corner, a black sedan idled with its engine humming. Maybe a rideshare, I thought. But when I crossed the street, it pulled out. When I turned down another block, it returned to the parallel street, matching my pace. I slowed. It slowed. I sped up. So did the car. I ducked into a pharmacy, walked past the aisles as if I were looking for painkillers, then slipped out a back door into the alley and crossed into the next street. The sedan passed the pharmacy, then circled the block. I pressed myself behind a dumpster until the sound of its engine faded. My hands shook as I texted Mara. If anyone asks where I am, tell them you don't know. Is everything okay? She replied. Not really. I typed, then deleted it and wrote, I'll explain later. Back home that evening, the house felt wrong, too quiet, like the silence was planned. My parents sat at the dining table, 2 full plates untouched between them. My mother's eyes were red. My father folded his hands deliberately. Don't forget to like and drop a comment. If this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button.
We need to talk, he said.
I slid into a chair and waited. People have been calling us, my mother said, voice bright with strain. Asking if you're okay. Asking why you're asking questions. I wanted to clear up details, I said. My father leaned forward. You are dishonoring your sister. Pain lashed through me. By asking what happened to her. By refusing to accept it, he said, each word clipped. Grief can twist a mind, make it see patterns in shadows. You need to stop. Why was her room locked? My mother flinched. To protect her things, my father said smoothly. To keep scavengers from picking at our bones. I found a notebook, I said. She was scared. She wrote about being watched. My mother's breath hitched. You went into her room? I had to. My father's jaw tightened enough to whiten the skin around it. This ends now. What ends? All of it, he said. The questions. The calls. What are you afraid I'll find? He stood so suddenly his chair scraped the tile. Enough. My mother reached for his hand. He didn't take it. He stared down at me like I was a problem to be solved. If you continue, you will regret it. I left the table before my voice betrayed me. In my room, I locked the door and pressed my back to it. The warning call.
The car.
Their faces at the table. The clean gaps in her posts. The coded notes. The name Helix circling like a hawk overhead. Don't forget to like and drop a comment. If this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button. I opened my laptop and the notebook side by side and started matching the ciphered text to anything I could guess. A substitution, a key phrase, a shift. Hours fell away. Then I stumbled on a loose thread, a line repeated across 3 files, the same pattern marking every 10th character. I counted, separated the letters, and a phrase seeped through like water under a door. Cold room 6.
Tuesday. 8:40 dock B.
I stared at it until my vision went grainy. Cold room.
Dock.
Those weren't metaphors. Those were locations. Helix refrigerated storage sat on the industrial edge of the city. Dock B could be a delivery bay. Tuesday at 8:40. Tomorrow. I checked her bank account through a shared budgeting app she'd once asked me to help set up and never bothered to unlink. The most recent activity glowed like a flare, a withdrawal at a kiosk 2 blocks from the Helix facility, dated the morning after she died. Everything inside me tilted. The funeral, the immediate sign-off, the locked room, the wiped posts. She hadn't vanished into myth. She'd moved through the city, left crumbs in places we weren't meant to look. My phone vibrated on the desk. Another call with no number. I let it ring twice, then answered on speaker. I told you to stop, the same flattened voice said. Who are you? I said. What is Helix? Silence. Then a soft, almost amused exhale. You don't understand what you're walking into. Then help me understand. You won't live long enough, the voice said and hung up. I sat very still. The room dim around me, the clock ticking too loudly. Fear bloomed, hot and metallic, but beneath it something steadier took root. I wasn't chasing a rumor anymore. This wasn't grief making faces in the dark. My sister had left a map, and someone was trying very hard to burn it while I read. I copied the files to 3 different drives, hid one under a floorboard of my own, and packed a backpack with a notebook, a flashlight, spare clothes, a cap. I wrote a note to myself, addresses, times, in case I needed to run. Tomorrow at 08:40, I would be at Dock B. Don't forget to like and drop a comment. If this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button. Whatever had swallowed my sister had teeth and a name, and it was bigger than anything I'd imagined. But the message at the funeral had started something in me I couldn't stop. I would go to the docks. I would see with my own eyes. I switched off the light and lay awake, the city breathing beyond the window. Every noise sounded like footsteps, every headlight sweep a search beam. I wasn't just grieving anymore. I was in something, and it was watching back. The night before I was supposed to go to the docks, I hardly slept. The phrase kept looping in my mind. Cold room 6. Tuesday.
Dock B.
It was the closest thing to a map my sister had left, but fear sharpened every thought. What if I wasn't ready? What if it was a trap? At breakfast, my parents sat at the table like they had every morning of my life, but the air was heavier now, charged with suspicion. My mother poured coffee, her hands too steady, her eyes never quite meeting mine. My father unfolded the newspaper, his gaze flicking toward me like a hunter checking his prey's movements. I heard you were out late, he said casually, without looking up. Just walking. Dangerous time for walking, he replied, snapping the paper straight. You never know who you'll run into. The words slid under my skin like blades. I pushed my plate away untouched. I'll be fine. You're not fine, my mother said softly. You're done raveling. This obsession isn't healthy. Obsession. That's what they wanted to call it. Not truth, not survival, obsession. I forced a smile that felt brittle. Maybe you're right. But I was watching them closely now, and that was when I caught it, a slip. My father mentioned, in passing, that the hospital had been kind enough to release my sister's body quickly so arrangements could be made. Only there hadn't been a hospital. The official line was that she'd been declared dead at home, the doctor signing off without transfer. Which hospital? I asked. He froze for a fraction of a second before covering with a sip of coffee. You know which. No, I don't, I said quietly. Don't forget to like and drop a comment. If this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button. His eyes narrowed, and I felt my mother's hand tense around her mug. A chill swept through me. They were lying. The story was shifting beneath their own tongues, details collapsing because they couldn't keep them straight. Later that afternoon, when they were out running errands, I searched the study again. In a locked drawer at the bottom, beneath stacks of insurance forms and old tax files, I found something that made my stomach twist. Wire transfer receipts. Large sums of money moved quietly between accounts I didn't recognize. Some were marked with the name Helix. The numbers were staggering. Too much for savings, too much for ordinary business. And the dates. Several clustered right before her supposed death. My hands shook as I snapped photos with my phone. My parents weren't just hiding grief. They were hiding transactions, ties to something bigger, and my sister had known. That's why she'd vanished. That's why she'd warned me. The thought sent a shiver down my spine. That evening, when the house grew quiet again, my phone buzzed. Another private number. For a moment, I braced for the distorted voice, the threat. But the message was different. Meet me. Tonight. Midnight. Train yard, south entrance. Come alone. The breath caught in my throat. It was her. It had to be her. I wanted to reply, but fear rooted me. What if my parents saw? What if they already knew? I deleted the notification and locked the phone. The rest of the evening passed in tense silence. My parents spoke in low voices in the kitchen, the murmur rising and falling like waves I couldn't quite catch. When I walked past, they stopped abruptly. My father's eyes tracked me with the sharpness of a hawk. At 11:30, I slipped out the back door, careful not to let it creak. The night air was damp, carrying the smell of wet asphalt. My shoes crunched lightly on gravel as I moved quickly down the street, every shadow a possible tale. The train yard loomed ahead, rows of rusting cars under flickering floodlights. I ducked through the south entrance, heart hammering, every nerve alight. Then I saw her. She stepped out from behind a boxcar, thinner than I remembered, her hair tied back, her eyes darting nervously. For a second, the world tilted. My legs almost gave out. Jesus, I whispered. It's really you. She nodded, lips trembling. Her eyes filled, but she didn't hug me. She kept her distance, glancing around. I don't have much time. Don't forget to like and drop a comment. If this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button. I stared at her, every emotion crashing at once, grief, joy, fury, relief. You let me bury you. I had to. Her voice cracked. They would have killed me if I didn't disappear.
Who?
Helix. Her gaze sharpened. So you found it. I found enough to know you were running. She stepped closer, lowering her voice. Mom and Dad aren't who you think. They've been laundering money through Helix for years. Fraud, smuggling, things I don't even fully understand. I stumbled onto records. I confronted them. After that, they watched me. Every step. Every call. I couldn't breathe without them knowing. The ground seemed to tilt under me. My parents.
Fraud. Smuggling.
Lies wound tight around my childhood like barbed wire. They planned to make me disappear, she whispered. Not just to silence me, but to protect themselves. So I staged my own death before they could. I shook my head. The paramedics. The doctor. All part of it, she said quickly. They have people everywhere. I barely got out. I sent you that text at the funeral because I couldn't stand you believing I was gone. Tears burned my eyes. Why didn't you come to me before? I didn't know if I could trust you, she admitted. They raised us. I didn't know if they'd gotten to you too. The words stung, but I couldn't blame her. My throat closed around 1,000 things I wanted to say. A rustle echoed from the far side of the yard. We both froze. We don't have long, she hissed. You need to decide, will you help me expose them or stay out of this? Because if you stay, you're a target now too. Her eyes searched mine, desperate and fierce. I wanted to believe her, wanted to accept her story whole, but doubt gnawed at me. Was she telling me everything, or hiding her own sins under theirs? Why should I trust you? I whispered. Don't forget to like and drop a comment. If this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button. She flinched, hurt flickering across her face. Because I gave up everything. My life, my name, so you could live long enough to choose. The floodlights buzzed louder, and footsteps crunched on gravel. We ducked behind a car, pressed close, my heart slamming. Tomorrow, she whispered urgently. I'll send you a location. Don't tell anyone. Not a soul. Then she was gone, slipping into the shadows with the ease of someone who'd practiced vanishing. I stood alone in the yard, breath coming hard, the night thick with the weight of betrayal. My parents weren't grieving parents at all. They were architects of lies, tied to something vast and poisonous. And my sister, alive, trembling, burning with truth, was caught at the center of it. I turned for home, every step heavier than the last. My life had split down the middle, the family I thought I knew, and the one unveiled tonight. And in the space between them, a question I couldn't shake. Was my sister telling me everything, or was she playing me too? The next morning, the house felt different. The silence wasn't ordinary. It was tight, expectant, like the walls themselves were waiting. My father sat at the dining table, suit jacket still on, though he hadn't left for work. My mother stood by the window, staring out at nothing, her hands folded so tightly the knuckles were white. You went out last night, my father said, his voice even, too even. The blood in my veins turned cold. They knew. I needed air, I said. His eyes narrowed. Don't lie to me. My mother turned, her face pale. She contacted you, didn't she? The words punched the breath from me. What? You think we don't know? My father snapped. He slammed his palm against the table, the sound sharp as a gunshot. You think you can play games with us? With her? The room tilted. They weren't pretending anymore. The masks they wore, grieving, fragile parents, were gone. What stared back at me was raw, hard, and dangerous. Don't forget to like and drop a comment. If this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button. What did you do to her? My voice cracked, but I didn't care. My father leaned forward, his jaw set like stone. She was reckless. She didn't understand what she was dealing with. And now, thanks to you, neither do you. She's alive, I said, louder now. I saw her. I spoke to her. For the first time, my mother flinched. My father's eyes darkened. Where? He demanded. I shook my head. I'll never tell you. He stood, the chair scraping back violently. For a moment, I thought he might strike me. Instead, he gripped the back of the chair so hard his knuckles went pale. Do you understand what you've done? You've doomed yourself. Both of you. I know what you've been doing, I said, voice trembling but steady enough. Helix. The transfers. The laundering. She found out, and you tried to silence her. My mother's lips parted, but no words came. My father's face turned to stone. You don't know the first thing about it. This family has survived because of us. Every roof over your head, every meal, every comfort. You think it was paid for honestly? The floor seemed to sway beneath me. My childhood, every memory of safety, suddenly reeked of corruption. You built all of it on lies. On survival, he spat. The room filled with the sound of my pulse, loud and furious. Before I could answer, my phone buzzed in my pocket. My father's gaze dropped to the movement, sharp as a knife. I pulled it out quickly, shielding the screen. Another private number. The message was short. Now. East Warehouse, Dock B, bring nothing. I slid the phone back into my pocket, pulse thundering. My father's stare lingered on me. Suspicious, searching, but I forced calm into my expression. I'm going to my room, I said. I made it upstairs, shut the door, and leaned against it, shaking. They knew she was alive. They wanted her back, not to save her, but to erase her properly this time. I couldn't let that happen. By afternoon, I slipped out again, careful to avoid the living room where my father lingered like a guard. I walked quickly, every step heavy with dread, until the industrial yards rose ahead. The east warehouse loomed, a skeleton of steel and shadows. She was waiting inside, near a stack of crates, her face pale in the dim light. Relief and terror collided in my chest. "They know," I said immediately. "Don't forget to like and drop a comment. If this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button." Her eyes widened. "What did you tell them?" "Nothing. But they know you're alive." She cursed under her breath, pacing. "Then we don't have time." "What's the plan?" I asked. She reached into her bag and pulled out a small USB drive. "Everything's on here. Proof of the transfers, the coded files, the network. I've been compiling it for months." I stared at it, my throat dry. "Where are you taking it?" "To the press. To the authorities. Somewhere they can't bury it." She looked at me, her eyes fierce. "But I can't do it alone. They'll be watching me." I nodded, the decision already made. "I'll go with you." Before she could answer, the crash of footsteps echoed through the warehouse. My stomach lurched. My father's voice carried, harsh and booming. "Enough games." He stepped out from the shadows, flanked by two men I didn't recognize. My mother followed, her face ghostly pale. My sister's grip tightened on my arm. "Run." But there was nowhere to run. The men blocked the exits, their bodies solid walls. My father moved closer, his gaze locked on the USB drive. "Give it to me," he ordered. "No," my sister said, her voice steady. "You don't understand what you're doing," he snarled. "You think you're exposing corruption? You're destroying your family. Everything we built." "What you built is rotten," I said, my voice breaking. "We're not part of it anymore." He stepped closer, towering, his hand twitching as though ready to strike. My mother whispered, "Please, don't make this worse." But her plea sounded hollow, powerless. My sister slipped the drive into my pocket without him noticing. Her eyes met mine, silent, urgent. "Run if you can. Don't forget to like and drop a comment. If this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button." My father lunged then, grabbing her arm, shaking her. "You're going to ruin us. Let her go," I shouted, shoving him with all the force I had. He stumbled back, not far, but enough. My sister wrenched free, grabbing my hand, and together we darted for the side exit. The men lunged, but adrenaline made me fast. I swung a metal rod from the floor, catching one across the arm, his grunt echoing. We burst into the night, sprinting across the lot, our lungs burning. Behind us, footsteps thundered, shouts slicing the air. My sister pulled me toward a narrow alley where we ducked into darkness, pressing ourselves against the wall, gasping. "They won't stop," she whispered. "They'll never stop." I touched the USB in my pocket, the weight of it hot, alive. "Then we don't stop either." We made it to a safe cafe near downtown where Wi-Fi buzzed in the air and people filled every corner. Among the noise and chatter, I plugged the drive into my laptop. Names, accounts, transactions bloomed on the screen. Evidence too heavy to ignore. Together, we sent it to a journalist Mara trusted, someone outside the city, far from my parents' reach. We watched the files upload, the progress bar crawling while our hearts pounded. By the time we left the cafe, I knew nothing would ever be the same. The fallout was fast. Within days, the transfers hit the news, names exposed, investigations opened. My parents were arrested, their faces plastered across headlines that spoke of fraud and conspiracy. The house I grew up in became a crime scene, police tape cutting across the front door like a scar. My sister and I stood outside the courthouse one morning, the chill biting through our coats. She looked fragile beside me, but alive, and I clung to that. "They'll hate us forever," I said quietly. She shook her head. "They were never really ours." Silence hung for a moment. Then she slipped her hand into mine. "We still have each other." The scars were there. Anger, betrayal, grief carved into us, so deep they'd never vanish. But beneath them was something stronger. The choice to fight for truth, no matter how ugly. When I thought back to the funeral, I remembered the lilies, the silence, the coffin lowered into the ground. I remembered believing it was the end. But it hadn't been an ending. It had been the beginning of everything. The day I thought I buried my sister was the day I dug up the truth instead. Hey besties, thanks so much for sticking around till the end. If you felt something, learned something, or just enjoyed the story, don't forget to like, drop a comment, and hit that subscribe button. See you next time, bye.